Watch as Israeli hostages are reunited with their families after more than 2 years in captivity. Donald Trump declared the end of the Israel-Gaza war.
So this long and difficult war has now ended. You know, some people say 3,000 years, some people say 500 years, whatever it is. It's the granddaddy of them all. And in an unprecedented achievement, virtually the entire region has endorsed the plan that Gaza will be immediately demilitarized, that Hamas will be disarmed, and Israel's security will no longer be threatened in any way, shape, or form. Generations from now, this will be remembered as the moment that everything began to change, and change very much for the better.
The last 20 living hostages held by Hamas in Gaza were returned to Israel today. The terror group said it would also release the remains of 4 hostages who died in captivity, but that it does not know the whereabouts of the other bodies.
Bring in now our Homeland Security Editor, Mark White. Mark, who's been resting your vocal cords. You've been doing a sterling performance today. Mark White, we can see live pictures on our screen now of Tel Aviv. A somewhat more muted atmosphere there now as the realisation is sinking in that the full bodies of the 28 missing hostages will not be now released today.
Yes, Donald Trump alluded to that in the news conference, the difficulty that there is, and we're looking at live pictures there out into the desert as that process begins of repatriating some of the remains of those hostages. But because of the circumstances, clearly many killed within the tunnel systems under Gaza, that means that for some the remains are buried under tons of rubble. It may be very difficult, if not impossible, to actually get to the remains of some of the hostages, which is just clearly absolutely devastating for any family to hear that. But we've got to wait, clearly, in the hours and days ahead to see how many of the 28 hostage bodies or remains they can repatriate back to Israel. Martin, for those 20 hostages who are still alive, former hostages now back in Israel, it has been the most emotional day for them and for their families as well. We want to bring you some video that the Israel Defense Forces have just put out on social media. I feel I should put out a warning because it's so emotional to watch. It's not distressing, but it's deeply emotional. If we've got that ready, I'd like to play that for you now.
תירגע. זהו, אתה איתנו בחיים שלי, זהו.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהים לך העולם. בקיר אסורים, ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהים לך העולם.
It's hard not to be so deeply moved just watching those images coming out of Israel, what these families have been through these last 2 years. And for them, at least, there is reconciliation, a reunion with their loved ones.
And Mark White, just to explain to listeners there who were listening in, there was footage of released hostages being reunited with their loved ones. And, Mark White, we saw some video earlier on of one of them looking out from a coach as they were brought back into Tel Aviv. And it's just incredibly emotional to see how emaciated and gaunt and ghost-like and pale they are. Because, of course, no doubt they spend a huge amount of their time, all of it, in captivity, if not even underground, in tunnels. And the noises coming from those people there, the best way of explaining it, I guess, Mark White, is just one of being utterly overwhelmed and emotional, and also a sense of absolute disbelief that after 737 days, this nightmare is finally over.
Yeah, I mean, it's just visceral emotion, isn't it? You know, clearly they just couldn't control just that absolute surge of relief and sorrow and love for those individuals that they probably, on many occasions over the last 738 days, felt that they might not see again. And here they are, back in their arms, and hopefully now beginning that slow process of rehabilitation, that process of trying to come to terms with what has happened to them psychologically, and just rebuild their lives after 2 years away from their families and being subjected to unspeakable trauma, without a doubt, deep in the tunnel systems below Gaza. As we say, 28 of their fellow hostages didn't make it to see this day. It has to be hoped that as many of the hostage remains as possible can be repatriated for the families, to at least give them a burial, to know that they're finally at rest.
Mark White, a statement's just been released by the Hostages and Missing Families Forum. They're basically saying that Hamas has violated the agreement. They said that they hope there should be Hamas's violation of the agreement must be met with a very serious response from the government, and the mediators. An agreement must be honoured by both sides. If Hamas does not fulfil their part, then Israel should not fulfil its part either. We demand all 28 hostages back. We will not give up on anyone until the last hostage is returned. So there we see the Hostages and Missing Families Forum perhaps intimating that Israel should stop releasing prisoners as its side of the bargain